My mom stole my identity to date my ex, now they are getting married. Part 3. Chapter 16, I confront Nico, he confesses everything. After the package with the fake wedding invite, the one that named me as the bride, I spiraled. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I stopped answering Rachel's texts. Because deep down, a voice was whispering something I didn't want to hear. What if Nico sent it? It made too much sense. He knew my mom. He had been with her. He had history, dark, bitter, prison-born history. And now he was with me? Comforting me? Sleeping with me? I needed answers. So I went to his apartment unannounced, no makeup, messy hoodie, shaking hands, and an emotional pitchfork behind my eyes. He opened the door and froze when he saw me. "Hey," he said, like I might break. "You okay?" "No," I said, stepping inside. "And I need you to tell me the truth. All of it." He closed the door slowly. "I mean it, Nico. No games. No cryptic crap. If there's one more secret you're keeping from me, I swear to God. I knew who you were the night we met." Silence. I blinked. He swallowed hard. "I knew exactly who you were, Ava. The moment I saw you. At that bar. You said you didn't," I whispered. "I lied. I backed away." "Why?" I asked. "Why would you lie about that? Why would you?" He cut me off. "Because I wanted to hurt her. Your mother. I wanted her to suffer." The air cracked between us like glass. I hated what she did to me. She used me when I was at my lowest. And when I got out, she vanished. Reinvented herself. Cleaned up. Got rich. Built this whole image like she was some glamorous phoenix. And then I saw you. I shook my head. "So you used me." "I wanted to," he said. "At first. That night in the bar, I planned everything. I wanted to get close to you. Sleep with you. Make her jealous. Tear a hole in her perfect, Instagram-worthy life. I felt like I was going to throw up. But then," he said quietly, "you weren't her. You were better." I stared at him. So it was real. He paused. And that pause, that goddamn hesitation, told me everything I needed to know. "You're still in love with her," I whispered. He looked away. "It's not that simple." I laughed. Short. Sharp. Painful. "No, Nico. It is exactly that simple." I stepped back, my whole body vibrating with betrayal. "You came into my life when I was at my lowest. You knew what she did to me. You saw the damage. And you still thought, you know what would be fun? Let's sleep with her daughter." "Ava, I didn't mean to hurt you. You were a weapon. You looked me in the eyes and made me feel safe so you could throw that safety in my face and tell me it was all for revenge." "I never meant to fall for you," he said softly. "But I did." I laughed again, but there were tears this time. "And yet, when you look at her," I said, "you still see the fire, don't you? You still see the version of her you couldn't get over." He didn't deny it. Not even a little. I turned to leave, but he stepped forward. "Ava, wait." "No," I snapped. "You don't get to say my name like you love me. You don't get to make me your trauma trophy. Go back to her, Nico. Or better yet, crawl back into whatever prison fantasy you're still living in. I'm done being a chapter in someone else's story." I slammed the door behind me. Outside, the air was cold. My lungs felt tight. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Because at least now I knew. There was no rescue. No romantic fix. Just me. Standing in the ruins of everything. And realizing, if I wanted to get out, I'd have to burn it all down myself. Chapter 17, my ex admits he always knew. I had avoided Jake like the plague ever since the proposal went viral. He DM'd me a few times, casual, disgusting things like no hard feelings, right, and hope we can still be friends someday. Life's wild. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was afraid that if I ever saw him in person again, I might set something, or someone, on fire. But the universe has a sick sense of humor. Because 3 days before the wedding, I ran into him at a bar. Of course. The same bar where I met Nico. The same one where all of this started. The place where my life splintered into chaos under a flickering $3 Tequila Tuesdays sign. I was just grabbing takeout. No makeup. Hoodie. Headphones in. But there he was, sitting at the bar like he owned the universe. Wearing that smug little smirk. White tee, chain, baseball cap turned backward like he hadn't aged since high school. Our eyes locked. I turned to leave. But he called after me. Ava. Hey. Wait. Just 1 minute. I froze. Something in me, spite, rage, unfinished business, made me turn around. I walked up to him slowly, already regretting it. What do you want, Jake? He patted the stool next to him. Just talk to me. I'd rather chew glass. He chuckled like I was being so dramatic. You look good, he said. I ignored the comment. What do you want? He sighed. I figured we should clear the air before the big day. I blinked. You mean my mother's wedding? To you? Yeah. You want closure? Sure. I folded my arms. Fine. Here's closure, you're disgusting. She's delusional. And both of you deserve the mutual destruction you're walking into. He didn't flinch. Instead, he looked me straight in the eye, and what he said next will haunt me until the day I die. You know, I always knew it wasn't you. I blinked. What? He took a sip of his drink, completely unbothered. The account. The messages. The nudes. The way she talked. It was obvious. It wasn't you. It was her. I felt my stomach twist. Then why? Because your mom's hotter now. He actually said it. Deadpan. Like it was a perfectly logical conclusion. Like he was choosing between 2 menu items and just picked the one with more seasoning. Your mom's got this whole, mature, confident thing. The way she talks, the way she moves, it's crazy. You're still figuring it out. But her? She knows who she is. I stared at him. I thought I'd cry. But I didn't. Instead, I picked up his drink, neat whiskey in a short glass, and threw it in his face. Hard. It shattered against his forehead and splashed across his smug little grin. The whole bar gasped. Someone shouted, "Damn!" He wiped his face with his sleeve. Blinked once. And then, he laughed. See you at the wedding, he said. Like it was a joke. Like I was the punchline. I turned and walked out, hands shaking, heart pounding, fury spilling out of every pore. But something in me had finally clicked into place. This wasn't about confusion. This wasn't about manipulation. This was choice. He chose her. He knew it wasn't me. He wasn't catfished. He was just bored, shallow, and stupid enough to trade in a 3-year relationship for a scandal, and brag about it. And now? He was marrying my mother. Not because he was tricked, but because he wanted to. And that meant only one thing. The fairytale was fake. But the revenge was going to be real. Chapter 18, I found out I was adopted, and my mom isn't my mom. At this point, I didn't know who I was anymore. Emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, I was wrecked. But one part of me, the part that still wanted answers, wouldn't stop scratching at the walls. It started as a joke. Rachel and I were sitting on the floor of her apartment, drinking boxed wine and rage-watching old episodes of Snapped, when she said, "Honestly, you should take one of those DNA tests. Just to confirm that woman didn't steal you from a hospital or something." We laughed. But then, I ordered one. Out of spite. Out of curiosity. Out of that gnawing whisper in the back of my skull that had been there my whole life, telling me something didn't quite add up. Because the truth is, my mom, Margaret, had always kept things vague. There were no baby pictures. No photos of her pregnant. No stories about labor. No videos of me as a newborn. Just one little framed photo of us in matching outfits when I was around 2 years old. The rest? Blank. She used to say things like, "Oh, I was too tired to film everything. We were always moving. Things got lost. You were a quiet baby. Not much to record." I accepted it. Until now. The kit arrived. I spit in the tube. Sent it off. Forgot about it, kind of. Until 6 weeks later, an email landed in my inbox. "Your DNA results are in." I opened it on autopilot, not expecting anything. The screen loaded. And then, confusion. Under immediate family matches, it said, "Margaret L. Bennett, 50.2% DNA shared. Relationship, half-sibling or aunt." My stomach dropped. I refreshed the page. Checked the spelling. The login. Same result. She wasn't my mother. She was my aunt. I stared at the screen like it was glitching. Under parent matches. No mother found. Father, not in database. I sat there in silence. Frozen. And then I remembered, there had always been whispers. Family tension no one explained. My mom never talked about her sister. I didn't even know she had one, not really. Just a name I heard once, in passing, Elena. I called Rachel. She came over in 5 minutes flat. We started digging. Old Facebook photos. Obituaries. Public records. We combed through every online rabbit hole we could find. And then we found it. Elena Marie Bennett. Died 23 years ago. At age 27. The cause of death? Undisclosed circumstances. The obituary was vague. Cold. One daughter, Ava. Survived by her sister, Margaret. I was the daughter. And Margaret, the woman I thought was my mother for my entire life, had taken me in. No adoption papers. No record of custody. Just, taken. I couldn't breathe. She had erased my real mother. Wiped her from existence. Buried the truth under decades of lies and pastel birthday cakes and white Christmases that now felt like the set of a psychological thriller. I picked up the framed photo on the shelf, the one of us in matching outfits. I looked closer. And realized it had been cropped. There was a sliver of another woman's shoulder on the edge. Elena. She had taken that photo. Cut herself out. And inserted herself into my life in every way. I was never her daughter. I was her second chance. Her twisted little do-over. And now, she was marrying my ex. Trying to raise a child. Starting a new family. While mine had been erased. At that moment, I knew what I had to do. The wedding wouldn't just be a scandal. It would be a reckoning. Chapter 19, Nico and I make a pact to burn everything down. After the DNA results, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even confront her. I planned. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something like clarity. It was cold. Focused. Deadly. I called Nico. I know, after what he did, I should have deleted him from my life like corrupted files. But the thing about trauma is, sometimes the devil you know is the only one who understands the hell you're walking through. He showed up that night, didn't ask questions. Just looked at me with those sharp, regretful eyes and said, "Whatever it is, I'm in." I told him everything. The DNA test. The cover-up. The fact that Margaret, not my mother, but my aunt, had rewritten my entire life like it was a poorly ghost-written memoir. And now, she was about to marry my ex while possibly carrying either his child, or my father's. He poured us both a drink. We sat in silence for a long time. And then I said, "I want to burn it down." He smiled. "Then let's make it beautiful." We spent the next 4 nights crafting a plan so outrageous it bordered on cinematic. It had 3 parts. 1. The cake. Margaret's wedding cake was a 5-tier, sugar flour monstrosity ordered from some Instagram famous baker. What she didn't know was that Nico's cousin, a pastry chef, had been hired to help with prep. He agreed to decorate a private top tier reserved for the couple. Inside, nothing dangerous. But something unforgettable, black food culling laced buttercream filled with activated charcoal, enough to turn anyone's tongue, teeth, and mouth a shade of demonic grey for hours. Symbolic. Dramatic. Non-lethal. Perfect. To the cameras. Nico had a hidden button cam. I borrowed 2 more from a friend who worked in security. We embedded them inside my bouquet, my fake clutch, and, this was Nico's idea, the bouquet toss basket. All synced to a private live stream link. If things went to plan, every secret, every confrontation, every moment of implosion would be recorded. For the world. 3. The USB drive. We filled a USB with everything. Screenshots of Margaret catfishing Jake using my photos. Her TikTok thirst traps with stolen captions. DNA test results proving I'm not her daughter. Her bizarre stalker scrapbook of me that Nico once found in her closet, filled with notes about my skincare routine, what I ate, how I smiled. Nico printed a copy and folded it into a handwritten letter addressed to Jake. Thought you should know who you're really marrying. Ava. The envelope would be taped to the underside of his chair at the reception. The night before the wedding, Nico and I stood on the roof of his apartment building. Wind. Cigarettes. One final drink between us. No second thoughts, he asked. I shook my head. Only regret is not doing it sooner. He laughed. We're going to be legends or fugitives. Maybe both. Then we clinked glasses. To the fire, he said. To the ashes, I replied. And just like that, it was done. I woke up calm. Disturbingly calm. Like the eye of a hurricane that already made peace with the damage. Rachel did my makeup. Nico waited outside in a rented tux. The fake smile. Already in place. I slid into my dress, the white one she made me wear, and looked in the mirror. And for the first time in months, I didn't see her. I saw me. And I was done playing nice. The wedding was starting. Margaret had no idea. The guests had no idea. Jake had especially no idea. But I did. Because this wasn't a wedding. It was an execution. And I was going to be the one holding the match. Chapter 20. The night before the wedding, Mom slaps me and says I win. The wedding was 20 minutes away. The guests were seated. The string quartet was playing something nauseatingly romantic. Jake was somewhere, probably taking mirror selfies in his cufflinks. And I was standing in the bridal suite. Alone. Wearing a white dress I didn't choose, holding a bouquet with a camera buried inside it, and waiting for the detonator to click. Then the door opened. I didn't have to turn. I knew it was her. Margaret. She walked in slowly, like she was gliding, every step rehearsed, deliberate. She wore a gown that looked like it had been stitched from delusion, debt, and stolen youth. White lace, deep neckline, fitted like a second skin. She looked good. Too good. I turned around and faced her. She closed the door behind her. Locked it. Alone at last, she said. I didn't answer. She walked up to the vanity, glanced at her reflection, and fluffed her veil like she was starring in the final scene of a romantic movie. You look beautiful, sweetheart, she said, meeting my eyes in the mirror. Don't call me that. She smiled. Nervous. I tilted my head. About the wedding? No. I know exactly how it ends. She turned. Slowly. And I saw it, the flash of something darker in her eyes. Something unhinged. Unapologetic. You think you're clever, Ava. All your little mind games. But let me remind you, this is my day. No, I said. This is my revenge arc. And you're the villain with a bouquet. She laughed. Actually laughed. Like I'd told a joke she loved. Then she stepped closer. Her perfume hit me like a memory I never asked to keep. Replicas by the fireplace. My scent. The one she stole. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. You were always just my dress rehearsal. I'm the show. My breath caught. She said it with so much certainty, like she had always believed it. Like she had raised me to fail, just so she could rise from the pieces and claim the spotlight I built with my pain. I clenched my fists. You're not a show, I said. You're a virus in a wedding dress. Her smile snapped into something feral. Slap. It came so fast I didn't even register it at first. A sharp crack across my face. The sound echoed off the walls like a gunshot. I stumbled back, hand flying to my cheek, breath hitching. She stood there, calm, composed, hands still raised, like she had been waiting to do it for years. Don't test me, she hissed. You think you're dangerous, Ava? I was dangerous before you were even born. I looked at her through a haze of rage and disbelief. My lip trembled. My cheek throbbed. But I smiled. A slow, dangerous, unchained smile. Good, I whispered. Because the cameras are rolling. Her face twitched. Just slightly. I leaned in, eyes locked to hers. Hope you like going viral, Mom. And then, as if on cue, Rachel knocked on the door. 5 minutes, she called out. Guests are seated. Margaret straightened her veil, smoothed her dress, and turned toward the mirror again. She looked at me in the reflection. You'll always be the shadow, Ava. I stepped toward the door, blood boiling, heart pounding like a war drum. Then let's see what happens when the shadow takes the light. I opened the door and walked out. The wedding was about to begin. And so was the end. Chapter 21. The wedding begins, and everyone's wearing white. There's something sick about walking into a wedding that feels more like a ritual sacrifice than a celebration. The church was all white. White roses. White linens. White candles flickering under crystal chandeliers. Everything smelled like fresh-cut peonies and fake promises. And everyone was in white. Not off-white. Not champagne or ivory. White. I froze in the entranceway. Guests turned. Eyes widened. Rachel, walking beside me, whispered. Did the dress code say deranged cult and I missed it? I didn't answer. I was too busy scanning the crowd. The bridesmaids, in white. The groomsmen, white tuxes. The flower girl, a literal mini replica of Margaret. White lace. White shoes. White ribbon in her hair. Even Jake's mom was in white. A fitted sheath dress with rhinestones, like she was auditioning to be crowned queen mother of inappropriate. It was like walking into a twisted, sterile dream where everyone had merged into the same person, and that person was her. And then she entered. Margaret. In her wedding gown, a white mermaid-cut satin number with a sheer bodice and a cathedral-length veil. She walked down the aisle like a pageant queen entering the Miss Delusion finals. People actually gasped. And for a second, I understood. She had done it. She had pulled off the ultimate transformation. She wasn't just marrying my ex. She wasn't just wearing my style. She had cloned herself into everyone in the room, until the whole place looked like a shrine to her brand of beautiful. A woman in the front row leaned toward her friend and whispered, "Wait, is that the bride? Or the daughter?" I felt bile rise in my throat. Jake stood at the altar, grinning like a golden retriever in a tux. He looked at me. I looked away. Margaret caught my eye as she passed by. And she winked. Of course she did. That aisle wasn't just her entrance. It was her runway. Every white dress in the crowd was a mirror. And at the end of that mirror maze, she would stand before an audience she'd meticulously curated, with me as her final accessory. I looked down at my own dress. White. Fitted. Off the shoulder. Designed to match hers, on purpose. There was no accident. No coincidence. She wanted us to look like bride and shadow. Two versions. One spotlight. Margaret reached the altar. Turned. Smiled. And then? The music stopped. The priest adjusted his mic. Dearly beloved, but I wasn't listening. Because in my hand, I felt it, a vibration. The camera. Hidden in my bouquet. The live stream had started. Somewhere, on a private link with a growing number of viewers, people were watching. Watching this wedding. Watching this twisted theatre. Watching what I was about to do. Rachel caught my eye from across the aisle. Gave me a barely perceptible nod. Nico, in the corner near the cake, tapped his chest twice, a signal. Everything was in place. The altar had become the arena. And vengeance was in white. Chapter 22, Nico crashes the wedding with a mic and a secret baby. The wedding was halfway through the ceremony when I saw Nico slip through the side door. He was wearing all black. Not just black, funeral black. Turtleneck. Jacket. Gloves. And he wasn't alone. He was holding a baby. A real, squirming, wide-eyed, diaper-wearing baby. The second I saw the child in his arms, my stomach dropped straight into the floor. He looked directly at me. I gave him the tiniest nod. And that's when it happened. Nico didn't sneak. He didn't tiptoe. He walked straight down the center aisle, slow and calm like he had every legal right to be there. The guests turned. Gasps. Murmurs. Margaret looked up mid-vow. Jake blinked. Is that? Nico didn't stop. He reached the altar, turned to face the entire room. Then, from his coat pocket, he pulled out a handheld mic. He turned it on. A sharp squeal of feedback rang out. He cleared his throat. And then, in a voice that was calm, loud, and nuclear-level dangerous, he said, "Before the vows, I think there's someone you should meet." He turned slightly and held the baby up like Simba on Pride Rock. "Everyone, meet Lily. 8 months old. Yours, Margaret. Yours, Karen. Your actual grandchild." The room exploded. Literal gasps. Hands over mouths. One woman clutched her pearls and sat down in shock. Margaret's face turned white, whiter than her dress. Jake looked like he just got slapped by Jesus himself. Nico smiled. Cool. Collected. See, this baby here? She belongs to me. And your stepdaughter. The one you tried to keep locked away in that rehab center across the state line. People were whipping out their phones. You could already hear the whispers. She has a stepdaughter. Wait, what? Is this Raoul? Who even is this guy? Margaret finally found her voice. You're lying. Nico turned the mic off, leaned in closer, and said, not just loud enough for her, but for the front 2 rows to hear. She looks just like you. Unfortunately. Then he turned to the crowd, mic back on. She covered it up. Sent her stepdaughter away when she found out she was pregnant. Said it would ruin her image. Said she'd never let a rehab baby be her legacy. The baby gurgled. Loudly. Almost on cue. Margaret lunged forward, eyes wild, veil slipping off. Security, she shrieked. Get him out. But Nico wasn't done. He turned to Jake. You sure you want to marry a woman who lies better than she breathes? Who sends away her family and steals other people's children like handbags? Jake looked between Margaret and the baby like he'd just woken up inside a telenovela, which, frankly, he had. Margaret screamed again. That child is not my grandchild. Nico stepped forward, set the baby down gently in her carrier, then held out a file folder from his coat. DNA test says otherwise. He dropped it onto the altar. Right next to the ring box. And then? He turned, looked at me, and winked. The same wink Margaret gave me the day she walked Jake down my birthday party lawn. The irony was surgical. Then he walked out. Didn't wait to be dragged. Didn't run. Just strolled out of the wedding like he had delivered the mail and was off to his next address. The baby? Still there. Cooing. Margaret? Frozen. Jake? Sweating. Stammering. Holding a ring he clearly didn't know what to do with anymore. And me? Smiling. Because this wedding had officially shifted from ceremony to public trial. And the real show? Hadn't even started yet. Chapter 23, The priest is actually an undercover cop. The room was silent. After Nico's baby bomb, you could have heard a pin drop on a silk aisle runner. Jake was still holding the engagement ring like it had started melting in his hand. The baby, Lily, was now being held by a very confused flower girl. Margaret stood frozen at the altar, veil half off, mouth twitching, as if trying to force out words that couldn't survive the air. Then the priest cleared his throat. If I may, we all turned. He had been standing there quietly the entire time, looking calm, polished, composed. Just another overpaid officiant with a sermon full of meaningless platitudes. But now? He reached up, and slowly pulled off his wig. A collective gasp echoed through the church. The white curls dropped to the floor. Underneath, a buzz cut. Sharp. Military style. Then he unzipped the top half of his cassock, and underneath it, a navy blue bulletproof vest. On his chest, NYPD, Special Investigations Division. The church exploded. Guests screamed. Phones flew into the air. One woman fainted against a pew. He raised a badge high. Detective Carter. NYPD. You're all going to want to sit down for this. Margaret stumbled back, face drained of all color. What is this? Detective Carter stepped forward. Margaret L. Bennett, he said, voice clear and loud. You are under arrest for aggravated identity theft, wire fraud, medical fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy in the suspicious disappearance of Elena Marie Bennett. Gasps. Someone screamed, her sister. My knees nearly buckled. She turned to me, her eyes wild. You called the cops on your own mother. I smiled. You're not my mother. Detective Carter read her rights as two plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd and moved in from either side. Margaret tried to back away, but her dress was too tight, her veil caught on a pew. One officer grabbed her arm. The other pulled her hands behind her back. The cuffs clicked. And just like that, Margaret was cuffed at the altar. The detective handed me a sealed evidence bag. Inside it, the original DNA results. Nico's file on her fraud. The forged documents she used to claim custody of me after Elena's death. My heart was racing. I wanted to scream, to cry, to laugh. Instead, I watched her try to spin it, even now. This is insane. That child isn't even mine. Ava's lying. She's jealous. She's... The detective cut her off. Save it for the trial. And just before they walked her down the aisle in full cuffs, white dress dragging, guests filming with trembling hands, she turned her head to me. And whispered, I'll come back for you. I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. I just said, you've already taken everything. Now it's my turn. They dragged her out. The doors slammed behind her. The guests sat stunned. Jake had dropped the ring. The flower girl started crying. The baby started laughing. And I stood there in white, hands shaking, chest heaving. Because the nightmare was finally cracking. And through the cracks, daylight. Chapter 24, My ex tries to run, trips and breaks his nose. The second Margaret was dragged out of the church in cuffs, the guests turned into a mob of chaos. Some were whispering, some filming, some already uploading to TikTok with captions like wedding or FBI sting. Someone in the back yelled, I knew she looked too good for 48. Another gasped, didn't she sue her daughter last month? The place was imploding. But the person I wanted to watch most? Jake. Poor, sweet, morally bankrupt Jake, still standing at the altar with one hand half raised like he was waiting for someone to tell him what to do. His perfect wedding was now a criminal crime scene. The woman he was about to marry? Gone. In cuffs. The baby Nico dropped off? Still in the front row, giggling and spitting up on a doily. And me? Still standing there in white. Watching. And when Jake looked at me, really looked at me, I saw it hit him. Not regret. Not empathy. Panic. His eyes darted around. Sweat glistened on his temples. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. He turned. Started walking toward the side aisle. Faster. Then faster. He was running. Literally trying to flee his own wedding like a B-list rom-com villain. And then karma struck. Hard. Remember the cake? The towering, 5-tier, lace-piped, camera-ready, vengeance-frosted cake? The one Nico's cousin had decorated with enough black food dye and activated charcoal to stain the devil's teeth? Yeah. Jake ran straight into the table holding it. Full speed. Both feet off the ground. The table tipped. The cake wobbled. He flailed. Tried to grab it to balance himself. Too late. The entire cake collapsed, right as he tripped over its base, launched forward, and went face first into the flaming centerpiece of the dessert table. Yes. There was fire. Margaret had requested romantic ambience via tiny decorative fire bowls around the cake table. A bad idea before. Now? Glorious. Jake landed in the centerpiece with a sickening smack, knocking over one of the bowls. It ignited a Saturn table runner, which sent flames licking toward the remains of the cake like a match to a marshmallow. Someone screamed, "Oh my God!" Rachel shouted, "Stop, drop, and roll." I laughed. Out loud. Laughed so hard my mascara ran. 2 groomsmen ran over and tried to smother the flame with a monogrammed jacket. Jake finally rolled onto his back. His nose was bleeding. His mouth was black from the cake. One eyebrow was slightly singed. His boutonniere still pinned. Somehow. He coughed. Gasped. And then, I kid you not, he held up the ring box with a shaking hand. From the floor, covered in frosting, smoke, blood, and shame, he said, I still love you, Ava. If you want to give us another shot." The room went dead silent. Even the baby stopped cooing. I stepped forward, heels clicking on marble, slow and deliberate. Bent down. Looked him in the eye. "You proposed to my aunt." He blinked. Blood smeared on his lip. It was confusing. I stood up. "You deserve each other. But now that she's in custody, you'll have to settle for a prison visitation schedule." Then I turned to Rachel and said, "Let's go. I think the ring's cursed." As we walked out, someone shouted, "That was better than Bridgerton." Another person started a slow clap. And when I passed Nico near the door, now holding the baby like it was his Emmy, he whispered, "I told you." Beautiful fire. I didn't look back. Jake was still on the floor when I left, covered in cake, ashes, and the consequences of his own cowardice. And honestly, he wore it well. Chapter 25, I left with the baby in one arm and my power in the other. The fire was out. The wedding was over. And the fairy tale? Burned down to its lace-lined bones. What remained was ashes and silence. Margaret, in custody. Jake, in cake. Guests, stunned into silence or scrambling to capture the scandal from a better angle. And me? I was still standing. White dress torn at the hem. Bouquet wilted and dripping with black icing. But standing. The storm had come. And I was the only one who didn't drown. Nico caught up to me near the church exit. He handed me Lily, wrapped in a soft pink blanket with one sock missing and a tiny spit bubble forming on her lips. She blinked up at me, unaware that she'd just upstaged a federal arrest, a flaming cake, and a broken proposal all in under 30 minutes. "She's come," I said. "She likes you," Nico replied, offering me the ruined bouquet from the floor. "Might as well take the flowers. You earned them." I took them. Sticky, burned, bent at the stem, But mine? Rachel rushed up behind me. People are outside, she said. Like, a lot of them. News vans. Paparazzi. TikTokers. There's already a hashtag, #wedding from hell. Of course there is, I muttered. I looked down at Lily, who was now chewing on her own wrist like it held answers. You okay to hold her for a second? I asked Nico. He nodded. I took a deep breath, adjusted the bouquet, and then reached for the front doors. They opened wide. Sunlight hit me like a spotlight. Outside, chaos. Reporters. Photographers. Curious onlookers. A full army of flashing lights and boom mics pointed directly at me, like I was the star of a show I never agreed to audition for. Ava. Over here. Was the wedding a setup? Did you know she wasn't your real mother? What happened to the groom? Who's the baby? Are you going to take her place now? That last one hit different. A woman in a blue blazer, pressed and perfect, leaned over the police barricade and repeated. Are you taking her place now, Ava? Are you stepping in as the new bride? I stopped. Lily now in my left arm. Bouquet in my right. I let the question hang. Then I smiled, the kind of smile that isn't polite or passive or careful. The kind of smile that comes after surviving a war. No, I said clearly. I'm not taking her place. I'm taking back my life. The cameras erupted. Flashes went off. Voices shouted. A few people even clapped. But I didn't wait around. I walked down the church steps, one slow step at a time, the child in my arms, the broken bouquet trailing petals, and a future unspooling ahead of me that, for the first time, felt mine. No scripts. No stolen faces. No lies. Just me. And when Lily giggled, reaching for a petal stuck to my cheek, I laughed with her. Because maybe this wasn't the ending I expected. But it was the one I chose. And as far as I was concerned, the sequel starts now.
They lied. They cheated. They betrayed the one person who gave them everything. But guess what? The truth always finds a voice, and here, it screams. If you live for chaos, loyalty gone wrong, and revenge served cold. Like this video. Drop a comment. And hit subscribe, because on Family Drama Unleashed, we don't forgive, and we never forget. Tap that bell, because the next betrayal? It's already on its way.